So welcome to VP Culture. My name is Randal Weidenaar, the CEO and author of the VP Culture program. What we're going to give you is a brief introduction as to what happened to several CEOs that their culture was disrupted from a $59 billion evaluation down to near nothing and him leaving in disgrace because of cultural elements that weren't correct in his culture that led to this devastation. Or this CEO, the former CEO of Boeing, who lost half of his stock value overnight and had to lay off 30,000 employees and saw 232 people died as a result of using his product. Called before Congress. What happened to his culture that led to this point, and how can you avoid it? And then there's this, Herr Winterkorn from Volkswagen. He led a culture of fear. He wanted to create the world's largest automotive company in the world, and he almost succeeded. But he ended up in disgrace, a fugitive from justice, losing half of his stock value, laying off thousands of individuals, and missing his goal completely, even though he set lofty goals and inspired by fear his individuals. Or you could be like this, Cooper Medical Center, a $4 billion New Jersey-based medical center that inspires their teams to work in a special way, that actually brings healing to their patients and life-giving practices to their individuals. What did they discover? Or what did Southwest Airlines discover over 50 years when all the other airlines were posting net losses and over 77 airlines went bankrupt? They posted a net profit and had one of the most productive workforces in a unionized situation of any airlines that has ever existed. Let's look at what secret ingredient that these organizations have found that the others didn't. Let's delve into it. I like to look at it like this. What is this one quintessential thing that we, like School of Fish, create cultures and that we will follow one person, leaders, towards a certain direction? How is it that we all collectively move in the same direction? I call this question the primary research question that I have, which is, what is the one thing that motivates all people? If you knew what that one thing was, imagine if you could build your culture around it, how you could lead people in a special way that others have not grasped how to do. And so let's pursue this scientifically, which is very important to me, collectively from all the cultures and the case studies that I've presented so far. And let's find out what is the very operating system of life and of cultures and organizations going forward. So oftentimes when I ask this question, I find that if I ask the left brain, they try to calculate out what it is. But if I ask the right brain, it answers universally the same way. So when I'm speaking to rocket scientists, welders, CEOs, associations, all across the nation from Portland down to Orlando, they all say the same thing when I ask the right brain this question. But I have to tweak the question slightly, and it looks more like this. Okay? If you could choose just one thing for all eternity, what would you choose? And choose carefully, because this one thing has to motivate you forever. Okay? So could it be money alone? Enjoyment alone? An activity that you love? Accomplish the big dream alone? So your organization, a big task in life that you've always wanted to do? Or I give you number 4. You could be surrounded by those who care and value you for all eternity. What would you choose? 1, 2, 3, or 4? And what I universally find wherever I speak is that number 4 is the one that everyone chooses. Beyond anything else, people want to be valued. They want to be valued. And it's not just this research question, but science confirms it. This valuing people is what caused me to structure and call my whole company VP Culture. Valuing people is the quintessential thing that binds us all together, that unifies and motivates us all. It's the one thing that we all want. It's universal, from the CEO to the person that's putting together products on the front line to the leaders that lead them. It ignites our bodies and our brains. So we'll get into the molecular level of humanity. It causes us to thrive. It's this thing when we feel valued, when we're valuing others, it causes a physiological transformation. And that's why organizations change. And that's why it's important to use these scientific principles to push and to motivate your people, not to push them, but to motivate your people into a place that they already want to go. So science confirms this. It's not just my research, but research from around the world that confirms that all cultures, all people want this state of being valued. It's the operating system of all cultures, both organizational and national. It's the one secret ingredient. I call it the operating system of all culture. So it's super important for us to base our cultures on this. And like I said, on the molecular level, this is what we're looking at. It's a dopaminergic versus serotonergic based brain system. On the one level, dopamine is that goal-driven, type A driven, I call it a commodity culture, where cultures are driven and people aren't treated as people. They're not valued as people. They're pushed into a mold and they're treated as commodities. Versus serotonin, which is released when we feel valued. Okay? And a valued people-based culture starts to cause people to thrive. It upregulates everything in the system, in the body, in the life, and causes health and people to thrive. Because we're in a crisis. And this particular crisis looks like this, where we have two people that are, if we had a group of 10 people that were your team, 3 would be polling in this crisis. Only 3. And then the remaining 5 are not polling at all. Okay? The remaining 5 are just barely polling. They're disengaged. They're polling when you're watching them, but when you turn your back, they're disengaged. And then there's the 2 that are disgruntled. They're the ones that are actually working against your organization as you pay them. So this is how the average team, according to Gallup, shows up. 70% disengaged. And these are the statistics, harrowing statistics of lower productivity, down to 1 lost week per week in productivity per employee. This is huge kinds of numbers that, of course, are affecting the bottom line. Again, our brains are structured around this. A neuroscientist called Bruce Perry said that our brains are actually state dependent. So when you look at the brain, and it looks like this, our highest area of activity is the cortex. Everyone wants you to show up with your full cortex there. With your brain, that's where all your ethics are, and all of your creativity, all of your future planning are in the cortex. And it's state dependent. When it feels value, that part of your brain is online. When it starts to feel unvalued, when it goes into alert, alarm, fear, terror, state dependency, depending on what your culture is creating, you're going to start to go down into the lower areas of your brain and functionality. And not only that, but your IQ follows that as well. Instead of your full IQ, it goes down into the 80s and the 60s where people are just barely functioning. They're just living and surviving. And what's more, when you're a dopamine-based culture, it pushes this down and causes it to be down in these lower levels of activity kind of permanently. However, if you are a serotonergic-based company, when you're connecting and doing VP culture principles, serotonin raises the brain and keeps it up into that higher state of energy, where it's constantly working in its most intelligent, most calm, most productive selves. So this is what's happening to our brains and our bodies when we're on serotonin. It's something that changes us. It gives us this contentment and safety, longevity. It gives us a signal to thrive. It's the master modulator. This one releases and controls and affects all the other modulators within the brain and within the body. So it lasts a long time. Based on all of these scientific principles, it even affects your very nervous system itself. According to Stephen Porges, it's a social connection circuit, and it tells your body electrically that it's time to thrive and time to move on. There's so much exciting science that when you do this lose-lose system where you say, I'm just going to push people to their limits, you're using a dopaminergic culture, and ultimately you're going to crush those people. The dopamine is going to go away too because it downregulates, and the serotonin is just about going to disappear because people don't feel valued in that kind of a system. However, if we create a VP culture, it's going to look like this. We start off with serotonin and connection, and dopamine might be small, but both grow. Everything grows. Your business grows. Your organizations grow because you have a bunch of human beings within your organization that are optimally thriving and acting. So that's the core of VP culture. And this is confirmed by Harvard researchers, Google researchers, researchers from around the world, that these VP culture techniques and ideas are indeed the core of what drives humanity. So I like to put up this picture here, an F-35, because we get to this point and everybody's like, yeah, I have those intentions. We want to have a great culture. I know, we're already there. Well, here's the saying from a Greek poet. We don't rise to the level of our good intentions. We fall to the level of our training. So imagine, you're not going to take an eager young 35-year-old says, yeah, I'd love to fly that plane. Good intentions. The Navy doesn't stick them in that plane, put them on an aircraft carrier, press the launch button because they have such great intention. They would end up in the sea, 35 feet off the front of the bow. No, the Navy trains them and trains them and trains them because it's terrifying. When you press that launch button, you're set off into Mach 1 in a matter of seconds. You better know how to fly that plane. That's when your instincts cut in and take over. And that's what leadership is all about. You have to know how to lead. You have to have the skills to lead. You can't just put a well-intentioned or a well-performing individual that knows how to create the product well, but doesn't know how to lead. So this is a skills-based training that gets them the skills to create those valuing organizational cultures. Okay? So it's based on a target culture. We have the scientific data for where you need to go. And then we have intentional practices, habits and skills that your people need to build in order to create that. And then we have these scientific bases for each one of these modalities. Each one of these things has been proven to work in organizations for decades. So this is what you want to train your people in. You might have great culture already. This will make it better. You might have a weak culture. These skills will bring you up to a more competitive level. So the art of VP culture is what we're really trying to drive people towards. Valuing people so that it becomes, your organization becomes a great place to work, that people are excited about it, that your customers are excited about it. In fact, it kind of looks like this, okay? When your organization and your teams in your organization and the individuals in those teams and the community that they're serving are all working together, they're actually orbiting around value. When your community feels valued, when your teams feel valued, when your individuals value, they all stay and operate around your organization and in your culture because there's that gravitational pull of being valued. That's what attracts community, customers, people that you serve to you, is because they feel valued. That's what it keeps your teams running together because they feel valued. That's what keeps the individual at your organization because they feel valued. And what drives this current, this gravity? It's these three practices: emotional science, value science, and personality science. These three combined in the right mixture and the right skills, if your leaders can embody these things, they can start to create this gravitational force of culture, the operating system of culture. That's why it's a skills-based training. We have skills-based training in each one of these. We have workshops that surround each one of these things that train your organization in it. 3-hour workshops, worksheets that reinforce this, videos that help them educate themselves in this so that they reinforce this over and over again over weeks and months, over a year's time of training. It's a powerful way to bring VP culture to your culture with a training that will change the lives of every individual, every leader will be touched by this in your organization. So with that being said, I thank you for your time, and I hope that we've sparked your interest in VP culture and that you'll dig in deeper and find out why VP culture is so important for your culture to develop.